I had a question about the idea too, and I really like that you did this. But like, so you launched it on Ethereum first, and then a day or two later, we get the Pulse on, or yeah, the launch on Pulse. Was it always your plan to launch on both chains? Like, were you ever just thinking maybe just Pulse chain, or were you always going to do both? And what was your motivation for launching on ETH first?
So they actually were deployed at the same time, but
Okay.
the liquidity pool for Gophers on Pulse Chain was actually quite difficult to set up because the liquidity pools platforms that exist, maybe there might be more, but at least the two that I know of are 9mm and a fork of the front end that Alex from Hedron had made, and for some reason, it's a complicated technical reason, but basically it was a lot more difficult to deploy the liquidity pool on Pulse Chain than Ethereum. It took hours and hours of work to figure out how to do that, and so that's why the Ethereum one launched first, and then the Pulse Chain one. It was mainly just just because the front ends for deploying V3 pools, because the ERC-404 token, it it kind of looks like, from a smart contracts perspective that's interacting with the tokens, like a DEX, for example. From the smart contracts perspective, it kind of looks like an ERC-20 token, but it doesn't act like one. And so some of the, just like the way that they work, so the step for deploying a pool, it just didn't quite get along with each other. There are steps that had to take, that required like kind of writing some code to automatically deploy the pool on Pulse Chain, that was required, and that was just like based on how those, for some reason, different on Uniswap. Maybe it's a new version or something, pool factory, but it was just harder to do. So and the plan was always to launch on both chains. I actually really love the cross-chain aspect. I think that's really Pulse Chain's most valuable trait, is that it shares history with Ethereum, and like, you can deploy smart contracts to both chains at the same time that have the same contract address, and so they're completely independent, but they kind of live in parallel, and the market kind of loosely prices in the differences between the two. And so I really like the dual chain launch, and I think that it makes for like exciting dynamic, because it gives like a new buyer, it actually gives you a tough decision to make. And anytime there's tough decisions to make, I think that that's positive for price, because it just amplifies the speculative aspect of it. And so I think that's big. And then also, it gives people a chance to kind of act like it existed before the Pulse Chain fork, where you could buy both, and now you have it on both chains, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then also I think it can be valuable advertising for, like, to reach new audiences. Because if like for instance, with Pool Party, which was also launched in the same way on both chains at the same time, the Ethereum one had crazy trading volume in those first couple hours, and it was causing the, like, it was trending like number 2 or 3 on Ethereum on Dex Screener. And so I think that, like, attracting new eyeballs by having assets that live on both chains, even though they're fully independent, I think that that's kind of like a long-term audience building move to make there.
Makes sense. And the parity on the price is pretty close too, by the way.
Yeah, Gophers on Pulse Chain basically went back to the Gophers on ETH price.
Mm-hmm.
And the ETH one didn't go as high, and it didn't dip as low. So I think, and really what that means is just that most people that hear about this are people that are more into Pulse Chain than Ethereum, and that's probably where their money is to speculate with. So
pretty cool.
I think the biggest thing you said, which is the great idea of it, is the advertising thing, like launching on ETH, so people see that it's there, and then that it mainly lives on Pulse Chain. Because what they'll do is, like, they may see some of this Gophers content on Twitter and stuff like that down the line, and then realize that, like, why does it keep getting associated with Pulse Chain? Like, why am I seeing this on Pulse Chain constantly? And then they realize, like, oh, okay, so this is where this guy really lives. Like, this is where he's from. The fees are way cheaper over there. I think it is a great way to bring people over. and regardless, I mean, some people may say like, well, what about like all the different tokens with utility and stuff like that? And this is just an NFT or gopher or whatever. That is what will catch eyeballs in a bull market, and it's going to lead into those other things too. And then can help lead into hex, can help lead into understanding pool party and things like that. So
I agree. I mean, I've like the new people that have now kind of entered the fold after GOFURS. There's like hundreds and hundreds of people that many of these people didn't even know about hex, and so I can tell in the people that I've started to engage with more, and people that have kind of started participating in this stuff. And so it's kind of already I think and that's kind of the like it's like there's definitely room for the kind of more advanced like utility stuff, but there's also room for fun, and whenever fun has powerful speculative dynamics to it, I think that's like the sauce there.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's great. Last question, and then Ewok, I'm going to go over to you, and we'll start doing more getting into pool party. Just where's your head at as far as like ERC 404s as a main crypto narrative getting into this bull cycle? Because even though NFTs, you could argue like, oh, this is a second cycle narrative. People have already kind of been at it with NFTs, and a lot of them don't have good memories because a lot of them just got completely slaughtered, and they don't want to come back. And I've heard kind of casual crypto people say that to me. They were interested in the last cycle. Do you think these ERC 404s could be? Ewok was mentioning AI earlier. There's different narratives that we're going to see kind of come in this cycle. But I mean, I'm going to guess that you think that this could be a pretty damn big thing since you've spearheaded one of the first major ones here. But yeah, what do you make as far as the future of it as a technology for this bull cycle? Price potential, all these different things, and how GOFURS can kind of, again, hopefully kind of spearhead it and be one of the first ones created.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like there's like that second cycle narrative that it's like on one hand it means like obviously in the first cycle when something goes from no one knowing about it to now everyone knows about it, it's like there's that massive gain, but there's also massive risk that goes along with that. And the way I see that, like the second cycle aspect of it is that there's like proven demand for digital collectibles on chain, and that it kind of tags onto that. But the major improvement with it is the liquidity aspect of it. Like with NFTs, it's like you could have one in a collection, and maybe like a good one called Hash Masks, which I was familiar with, where like they had I think 8,888 of these things were minted, and like 8 of them had like basically 8 of them went for like $1 million. 8,000 of them went for maybe $10,000. No, 80 went for $10,000, and 800 of them went for maybe $1,000, and 8,000 of them went for nothing. So like the liquidity in that is just not. Most of the liquidity goes to a small handful, which is a good feature in its own right. Like kind of cutting right to the chase what your gains are for that whole thing. Like in Hex, here we are waiting 15 years to see what everyone's gains relative to each other are. But I think with NFTs, it's kind of good to just cut to the chase. And like, okay, this person gets the gains from this thing. This person gets the losses. I think it actually kind of speeds things up a little bit. So I think there's definitely room for it. But I think that that's what the ERC 404 concept improves upon is that liquidity aspect, because the token trading on a DEX, like that's something that I think is going to be timeless. Like that's probably to me the biggest innovation in crypto is the concept of trustless decentralized exchanges. And so kind of combining that digital collectibles thing, which there's clearly demand for, with the thing that is the most adopted feature in crypto really is the trading. I think that makes it where it's not just like rehashing the same old thing, trying to reach a new audience. It's like, there something that is in the category that was already successful and then make some improvement that boosts the financial aspect of it. And I think that's why it can be successful.